I fundamentally want to talk about fairness. Fairness was something that the Labour Party used to use a lot to try and define themselves. But I would put it to this House, and particularly to the Minister, who have exchanged regularly on this subject, not least that we both sat on the Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill Committee back in 2022. Many people remember 2022 politics for other reasons. We remember it for 9 months of the Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill Committee. But when you look at the differential between what rural communities like that, which I am lucky enough to represent in mid-Buckinghamshire, are being asked to build compared to our towns and cities, that fairness just isn't there. If we look at the example of Buckinghamshire as a county, we were already starting from a pretty punchy base. We were already starting from a point of an expectation to build some 61,000 new homes over the coming decades. The new ask of Buckinghamshire under this new government, from a starting base, looked like it was going to be 91,000. That's a 42% increase, plus this mystical 5% deliverability addition to that. And then the latest published number is a whopping 95,000 new homes expected over the next couple of decades. With that extra 5% added on, that's nearly a 50% increase. And that's not including the new town proposals that may well come through, those new towns of up to 10 or over 10,000 new properties. Buckinghamshire could well be looking at yet another Milton Keynes. And I would gently put it to the Minister that Buckinghamshire has actually already taken its hit on building a new town. It's now a 250,000 population city that is, of course, Milton Keynes, that did take away a huge chunk of rural Buckinghamshire. Buckinghamshire Council has always been very reasonable in what it has put forward as proposals. We have actually built tens of thousands of new homes in my constituency alone since the start of the century. If you look at villages like Hadnam, it is unrecognisable as a village, the level of development, and the developers keep piling in. There are more controversial proposals on agricultural land, on farmland, being considered right now just in that one village of Hadnam, and it comes up on door after door after door, where people are fed up with the loss of farmland, the loss of our rural identity, and making our countryside more urban. And the reason I want to talk about fairness is when you compare and contrast what Buckinghamshire is being asked to do, and you look at what the Mayor of London is being asked to do. Of course, the Mayor of London is being let off by 20% on his housing targets. London, our great capital city, where there are oodles of brownfield sites crying out for regeneration, homes where people are crying out to be able to buy them, starter homes through to family homes and everything in between. Why is London, Labour London, being let off those housing numbers when our rural communities in Buckinghamshire are being asked to take the pain? And when I expand that argument on fairness, I think it is a reasonable expectation that development from housing needs to be seen, as my honourable friend from Meriden has also said, relevant to his constituency, side by side with those other asks that are taking away our landscape, that are taking away our nature, that are taking away our agricultural land, which of course is a challenge on food security, and that is those additional asks on top of housing, of the countless solar industrial installations that my constituency is seeing, from Rosefield in the Claydons through to Kimberwick and many others. The battery storage facilities that we are seeing proposed, again in the Claydons, another one popping up in recent weeks near Little Missenden in the south of my constituency. And of course, like my honourable friend from Meriden, the great destroyer HS2, which has devastated mile upon mile upon mile of the Buckinghamshire countryside for no benefit to my constituents whatsoever. So I would ask the Minister to reflect on that point of fairness, to ask him to look, when he considers these housing targets on rural communities, to consider those other projects that are going on, many state-sponsored like HS2, that have that impact on these rural communities. And the last point I will make before I wind up is that many services can't cope for the residents that we already have, be that GPs, be that hospital services. Take the Chiltern line, for example, where again, from Hadnam and Tame Parkway Station, regularly in rush hour now, such is the population growth, people are being left behind on the platform. That is not Chiltern Railway's fault. That is the sheer growth in demand without anything to make up for it. So I ask the Minister to reflect on fairness, to ask on the multiple demands on our rural communities, and ask him to think again about that balance between rural and urban.